Qantas is Australia's flag carrier, and the airline has signalled its intent to expand its international network to include more destinations. Despite the pandemic, the airline has always been ambitious, and with Project Sunrise coming up, the world is their oyster card. But for now, without deliveries of the A350 and Project Sunrise yet operational, Western Australian city Perth holds the key to Qantas's long-haul non-stop international ambitions. However, Qantas has a problem, one they've known for some time, and one they've been locked horns with as well, without generally a solution that can come quick enough. Do subscribe to GlobeTrotting if you haven't already for much more analysis content like this. Qantas entered headlines in the last month as the major international airline revealed its once again disgruntled stance on Perth Airport and the limitations that this location has. This isn't the first time we've heard such a thing coming from upper management at the airline, specifically though Alan Joyce. In late 2018 and early 2019, Qantas was openly arguing with Perth Airport over aeronautical fees. As a result, Perth Airport sued the airline. It's safe to say it was rather sour, and Qantas routinely reviewed their presence there. Why, though, were all these issues taking place? Well, it concerned the location of the flights. Perth Airport wanted Qantas out of Terminal 3 and 4, and to move into Terminal 1. It is worth noting that every international airline flies out of T1, and especially so in 2019 when this argument was taking place. Qantas didn't want to do such a thing. Why? Well, in 2019, the Financial Review reported that Qantas didn't want to move, as by utilising T3, they could open it at only specific points during the day. Not only did this mean they wouldn't have as high fees, but they'd also see lower amounts of traffic, resulting in a less capacity at customs and so forth. Moving to T1 would actually have more ramifications, as they'd need to support the busy terminal, which has many international airlines and also international flights routinely operating from it. Towards the end of July, an agreement though was reached between Perth Airport and Qantas to see 2.5 billion AUD, so that's Australian, invested into a new terminal. It would see Qantas move into the building and out of the labelled outdated T3 and T4 by the end of 2025. The new terminal would increase growth and see aircraft movements improve and passenger numbers double by 2040. It would also give Qantas more opportunities to expand its network. That, though, was 3 years ago, and a lot can change even with terminal announcements, and that's something we've very much seen. Now the airline is back with further warning signs at Perth Airport that ongoing issues they face out of Terminal 3 are preventing them from expanding their international network, with new routes out of the question at the moment. And in addition, ones planned struggling to get airborne. Terminal 1 does remain Perth's primary international terminal, but as we know, and as stated already in this video thus far, Qantas doesn't want to be here. So instead, it favours Terminal 3, which very evidently does have problems with it. Alan Joyce has openly said that they'd unlock a mammoth amount of growth if an agreement can be reached with the Australian airport. However, that would seem easier said than done. As you've probably been able to tell, the two have had continued run-ins over recent years over terminal usage, and now Perth Airport remains hesitant to provide Qantas with what it needs, given the endeavour to eventually get them out of Terminal 3 to begin with. Qantas plans to launch to Rome again this year for a handful of months from Perth. It has also signalled the intent to fly to Paris. Paris has been long on the radar for Qantas alongside Frankfurt and some discussion around Amsterdam as well. All these European destinations that have been mentioned are actually off the back of their highly successful Perth to London flight that debuted many years ago now and was experiencing fantastic load factors. However, it is yet to be able to really properly flex its muscles because of these terminal constraints that they're facing. And given that Project Sunrise is still years out, it's a pressing matter. According to Qantas's CEO Alan Joyce, Project Sunrise is the final frontier of international travel. The airline will utilise the Airbus A350 and configure it with an exercise zone and a whole lot more. Eventually, Qantas plans to deploy the 350 on services from, say, Sydney to London and New York, without a single stop, easily making these the world's longest flights. These will test the endurance of absolutely any traveller, especially with plans to still have economy installed on the plane. Qantas is betting that the direct option will be favourable because it will ease travel and remove connections. For now though, Perth and the 787 Dreamliner remain the two key catalysts to their global expansion. But again, Perth is the restricting factor. Regarding aircraft, Alan Joyce says they'll see additional 787s arrive every month, and soon, new aircraft arriving every 3 weeks, as part of a massive fleet overhaul that does take place. It's not only a wide-body aircraft that we'll see come in, but very soon we'll be seeing new narrow-bodies that were part of that mammoth order placed last year for Airbus aircraft, including the likes of the A321neo family and the Airbus A220. So we know that aircraft certainly isn't the restricting factor here for the airline. They're more than capable with what they have. It's more so complications at the airport, and the comments from Alan Joyce have received some backlash, but also paint an intriguing picture. Alan Joyce says there simply isn't enough space and facilities for them to complete the missions they'd want to out of the aging Terminal 3. The airline says they'll be able to complete Perth to London, Perth to Rome, and Perth to Singapore. But as for anything else, especially the Johannesburg and Jakarta flights out of the terminal, they've been riddled with difficulties spurred on by the constraints, and they're seemingly not possible. This ongoing feud between Qantas and Perth Airport, including the upper management at Qantas being Alan Joyce, has had many people invested. Of course, you could understand one part of the argument that Qantas generally wants to expand its global operations out of Terminal 3. However, that is not the primary international terminal, and Qantas refuses to use the primary international terminal, which is T1, purely because they know it will have additional costs, additional time, and much more, which, yes, could have negative effects on the customers, but it does pose the question that I want to put out to you right now. Is this possibly all Qantas's own doings because of their refusal to comply with the airport and trying to get their own way? But you could say that the airline has significant leverage, being the flag carrier and being such an important part of the airport and the economic growth of the city. We would very much be interested to hear your take on this problem that the Australian airport and Qantas have. Should Perth Airport really be giving in to the demands of the Australian flag carrier? Let us know down below in the comments, as we'd love to hear your thoughts. And of course, if you have any opinions on potential routes that you'd like to see start up, you can also drop them below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Very much appreciate the support here. We hope you're enjoying the content. Stay tuned because there's a lot more to come, with videos releasing every 2 or 3 days.